How's it going, everyone? It's Spencer here with Spencer Stuff. Welcome to the community. I appreciate you being here. This is my cat Phoebe, and we're going to go over the Onkyo TX-RZ50 setup today. First off, I want to say congratulations to you. If you bought the Onkyo TX-RZ50, this is a big step in your journey, and I'm excited for you. So I'm going to go through all the basic setups, and as well as this, if you need help wiring your speakers or anything, I have a video down in the description below that you can use so that you can improve your home theater experience and make things easier for you. I'm going to jump right on into the setups and give you everything that you need to know. Thank you all for watching. So in order to get to the setup menu for the Onkyo TX-RZ50, you're going to go into your remote and hit the little gear icon right here in the lower left corner below the enter button. You have input and output assigned, you have speaker, audio adjust, source, hardware, multi-zone, and miscellaneous. We're going to start out with input and output assigned. For TV out OSD, I always leave everything at main. I turn off upscaling because your TV should do some upscaling on its own. If you have a cheaper TV, you might want to turn it on. You can always navigate it and see if that works out for you. If you're someone who uses a gaming console, this section is very important, section 1-1, HDMI 4K 8K signal format. You need to turn on everything, specifically Blu-ray DVD to 8K enhanced, game to 8K enhanced, and cable and satellite to 8K enhanced. And then Streambox and PC are both 4K enhanced. As I mentioned in my review, the first three HDMIs are HDMI 2.1 and then the rest are HDMI 2.0. That's why you don't have an 8K enhanced option when using Streambox or PC. Zone 2 HDMI, I don't use it, so I'm not gonna mess with it. OSD language, that's your language. Impose OSD, I leave it on, and then mini player OSD I have as always on. For HDMI input, I leave everything as is, HDMI HDCP 2.3. Video input, this is not really relevant for me. Digital audio input, not really relevant. Same with analog audio input, not really relevant. Speakers. Now this is where it's important. You need to set up your system. In my living room right now, I have a 3.1 setup. Technically, I have a 3.2 setup, but as I mentioned in my review, you don't have separate outputs. So because of this, I'm still gonna say that I have a subwoofer. I'm not using a separate zone. So my zone 2 pre-out says zone 2. It's not really important right now. I'm not bi-amping, so it's not important here. And then speaker impedance, you need to set to 6 ohms or above. You do have an option for 4 ohms, but you don't want to use it or it will neuter your product, as I mentioned in the review. So for me, I have a 3.1 channel setup. You have plenty of options for 4.1, 5.1, 6.1, 7.1, 2.1.2, 3.1.2, 4.1.2, 5.1.2, 6.1.2, and 7.1.2. There's also 4.1.4, and I can just keep going on and on. Plenty of options for you to choose from. When setting crossovers, this is something that you're gonna end up having to use you're gonna have DIRAC do it probably, but you're gonna wanna actually set this up differently. For me, I have the RP2 ADS, and even though they go lower, I typically still cross everything over at 80 Hertz. That being said, my center channel only goes down to 80 Hertz. So if you're someone who has a center channel that says only has an 80 Hertz crossover, 90 Hertz crossover, what you wanna do is take it and add 10 Hertz to it. So if you're at 80 Hertz as a crossover point for your speaker or the lowest end, bump it up to 90 Hertz as your crossover point so that you don't have any dip or anything in the audio response. LPF for LFE, typically I actually leave this at 100, and now that I'm looking through it, I have it at 120, so you can mess with this a little bit. I would say 100 or 120 is what I usually use. The distance is going to be set up on DIRAC, but if you want to use a tape measure or something along those lines from the primary listening position, you can do so. And in my case, that's what I did for these speakers. And frankly, it is what it is. Once DIRAC gets ran, you'll obviously get your distances and your timing calibrations differently. There's a level calibration setting, and this is going to be a little bit more nuanced later on when I go through the calibration with DIRAC. Equalizer settings. Now, if you don't use DIRAC, you have full equalizer settings up to 3 spots so that you can adjust each speaker specifically how you want. Specifically for me, I do not use this because obviously I'm going to use DIRAC. THX audio, I don't have a THX Ultra sub. I also don't want to use back speaker spacing. So if you have back surround sound or anything, just turn everything off. And included with this loudness plus, turn this off. I always tell people this is basically just a dynamic range optimizer. So essentially what it's going to do is it's going to bring everything to the level playing field with loudness. So if something is really dynamic, if you're watching a movie and there's supposed to be like a really loud boom or a loud gunshot, it's going to try and level it out to what the dialogue would be, and it ends up ruining the dynamics. I will say if you're someone who's watching shows or something at night and you want something a little bit more balanced off, Loudness Plus can be for you, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's really good for lower settings or lower volumes. Speaker virtualizer, I have turned off. And then speaker combo, I have it set to clips. They have plenty of options in their settings here to choose like what different models you want. Granted, I just leave it on other for now. I don't have a reason because otherwise it's gonna set crossovers for me. Audio adjust, multiplex mono, I just have it as main, left and right and center. Dolby, I do not have loudness management on. Once again, it's just a dynamic range compressor essentially. And I do not turn center spread on either, I don't need it. It's just basically trying to take the center channel sound and spread it along your mains. I don't like it. Just leave it on the center channel. DTS IMAX, I have DTS Auto Surround turned to on, so it'll automatically change the settings. I also have IMAX mode turned on, or to auto, and IMAX user settings to auto as well. LFE level 0 dB, and volume. This is another very important thing. I believe it's set to absolute when you get the speakers, or when you get the RZ50 itself. You want it set to relative. This is gonna set your display or on your receiver to decibels. I would set the mute level to negative infinity decibels. The max volume is off. And I find the power on volume being at negative 30 decibels is perfect. For me, it's like the immediate middle ground. You can turn it up for movies or leave it for TV shows and you'll be comfortable. And then for headphone level, I have it at 0 dB. Now going into the source section, basically what this is gonna do is say, well, what do you want your last input to be when you turn the TV on? Or it's basically just saying like, what do you want the volume to be? For me, I just want it to be whatever I had it at last. You can change the names of the different inputs, as well as what you want to use. So if I wanted to use an optical on this as opposed to HDMI, you can. If maybe you have an older TV, this is where you go in order to change things. Getting into hardware, you have your HDMI on here. I turn on HDMI CEC, standby pass-throughs auto, eARC supported, I have that turned on. Auto lip sync, this is something you can play with. You can turn it on or off. You can also set the settings separately in the receiver, so you can mess with it, do what you want, try it. Network is obviously network. You can set your HDMI or set your Wi-Fi and if you have a wired connection, you can set it up in there. Bluetooth, you can set that all up. Power management. Sleep timer I have turned off. I have auto standby also turned off. USB power at standby I have turned off. Network standby I have turned on, and then Bluetooth wake up I have turned off. Primarily, I just turn these off because I don't want someone connecting to my speakers or something accidentally and then ruining things. And then for the sleep timers and all that, you don't need them on, just turn them off unless you have some overwhelming desire. 12-volt trigger. So essentially what this does is if you have amplifiers or separate amplifiers, you're just setting it so that the receiver will tell the amplifiers to turn on. And then works with Sonos. If you have Sonos products, you can use them with this product. For multi-zone, this is basically if you have separate zones of speakers, like indoors or outdoors, you can set those up. I always have this at fixed, but I mean, frankly, I don't have any other zones of speakers on this product, so I just leave it be. And then for miscellaneous, you have your tuner for your radio, your remote ID, which is, I think that's just for the remote to communicate with the device. I could be wrong. Your firmware update, your initial setup settings, lock, so that if you wanted to lock your settings, you can, and factory reset. I hope this very basic run over of the settings within the Onkyo RZ50 was helpful for you. I know it does not contain the DIRAC calibration, but I felt like in this video I'd be going too in depth. As well as this, I'd like to run it in my theater room as opposed to up here right now. The problem I'm running into in here is it's just very awkward for me to record, and I don't have my tripod available. So I'm gonna run through it downstairs and make it a little bit easier so I have better lighting and give you a better option when it comes to learning about DIRAC. I hope this video helped you out. If you have any questions about the basic settings for the RZ50, please reach out. I'd be happy to help you. And I hope you have a great day, great evening, whatever it might be in your area, and I will see you all later. Thank you all so much for watching. See ya.